The foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan. I want to get to some foreign news in a moment and some related foreign policy, but let's start with The Voice. I know you've written about this in the newspaper today, and you've argued that Peter Dutton has made the tough but necessary call, and also his political achievement is substantial in keeping his party reasonably united. I guess not entirely, as we see today with Julian Leeser's position, Greg.
Yeah, so if Dutton is ever defeated, it'll be by his friends, not his enemy. Julian Leeser has conducted a savage blow against the Liberal Party today. So few Liberals give any concern to the party as opposed to their own vanities and self-promotion. But that shouldn't distract us, I think, from Dutton's brave and good decision. The Voice is a very bad idea, as Leeser himself outlined at the National Press Club in the way that Albanese has proposed it. But I think it's a bad idea in principle. Most Liberals are against it in principle. The whole point of liberalism is to remove race from civic status. You know, we were ashamed of historic treatment of Aborigines because they were singled out by race. We got rid of race-based immigration. We took out racial references in the Constitution in the 1967 referendum. So the Australian Constitution now contains no references to Aboriginal race or indeed to any specific race. And now The Voice wants, in thrall to the destructive dynamics of identity politics, which are powerful all over the Western world, wants to reinsert race right at the heart of our Constitution. This is wrong in principle. It breaches basic liberal ideas of universal citizenship. A coalition MPs told me they were in tears arguing for universal and equal citizenship. So what Dutton has done is right in principle. It's also right politically because the Liberal base would hate him if he'd done the reverse. And it took a lot of courage because you saw Noel Pearson immediately say he's going to take the high road and everything, and he does that by calling Peter Dutton Judas, just as he called Senator Price a blackfella punching down on other blackfellas at the behest of the whites. So the abuse that the no case is going to get throughout this process is enormous. The Liberals can win this, but only if they campaign really vigorously and really strongly. They've certainly been damaged by Leeser's self-indulgence today. God knows what he's doing in the Liberal Party or why he ever agreed to take that position, given that I could have told him from day one the Liberal Party was never going to endorse a Voice. It also seems as though he's willing to support Albanese's bad Voice, what he regards as a very bad proposal, rather than vote no. But I think that's beside the point. I think Dutton's choice was historic. It gives the Liberal Party a chance, and if the no vote gets up, Dutton will be joined by the most powerful ally you can have in democratic politics, and that is the electorate. If no is successful, that's 50% plus one of Australians who voted no. No one can call the Australian electorate racist. On the other hand, if yes gets up, I think Albanese becomes the greatest reformer in Labor history, and he's assured many terms into the future.
On to some other news now, and we've seen this tension around the Taiwan Strait yet again. But at the same time, Greg, a breakthrough today, the acting Prime Minister Penny Wong and the Trade Minister Don Farrell announcing a rapprochement, continued thaw in relations in terms of some of those trade tariffs, this time when it comes to barley and wine with China.
Yeah, so while I'm critical of the government's Voice proposal, I give it tremendously high marks on national security and foreign affairs. I think it's handled everything just about perfectly. I'd have a marginal disagreement with what it's done here, though. China's actions against us were completely unreasonable, and we took an action at the World Trade Organization. China doesn't like losing at the WTO. It wouldn't have changed its mind. You know, China couldn't care less about what the rules are, but it would have suffered reputational damage by losing a case at the WTO. And now we've withdrawn that case. I don't think we should have done that because that accedes to the principle that China just applies the most unreasonable punishment at its own discretion whenever it likes. And then, you know, after a couple of years, it gets tired of doing the punishment and withdraws it from you, and you've got to say thanks, as though that's a tremendous concession by the Chinese. So I think perhaps the government was ill-advised to withdraw its WTO action. The other thing is, while I think the government has managed things very well, let me not be stingy about that, the government has managed things very, very well. This thaw in relations has almost nothing to do with us and everything to do with central strategy in Beijing. Beijing switched off the wolf warrior diplomacy and has gone on to a charm offensive. You saw that it got Emmanuel Macron to give a kick at the Americans in Beijing the other day. That's what it's doing with everybody at the moment except the Americans and the Japanese. So we shouldn't get carried away that subtle Australian statecraft has produced this, and we should be a bit careful about just following down the, kumbaya, everything's great with the Chinese road. So far, the Albanese government hasn't done that. It banned TikTok on government applications last week and so on. So overall, I give the Albanese government really good marks. I think withdrawing the cases at the WTO, though, was probably a minor mistake.